For those of you who submitted their address, you should have received the bagels at your doorstep this morning. So hoping you all have your bagels in hand, ready to explore our product Beagle. I wanted to, before I start introductions, I would like to mention that there will be 3 quiz questions in between slides. And so with that, those who answer correctly first will receive a $25 gift card. And the answers can be submitted through the chat window feature. So it looks like everyone is pretty familiar with Zoom chat. So if you want to submit your answers there, that would be great. Okay. To start off today, our speakers are Krishna, Monty, and myself. Briefly about me is, my name is Marissa Trejo. I'm the Success Manager for WATI, What's Advanced Technologies Incorporated. I joined WATI in December of last year. Previously, I was working for some of the biggest nonprofits in California. My family had actually went into law enforcement last year, and I happened to cross paths with WATI, and they introduced me to Beagle. So now I'm serving as their customer success manager. Krishna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Marissa. Yeah, my name is Krishna Chandrapati, and I am one of the managing partners here at West Advanced Technologies. And I work with a number of law enforcement agencies, about 100 or so, here in California, close to Silicon Valley. Beagle has been developed and has been in production for about 3+ years now. We developed it working closely with a number of law enforcement officers and crime analysts. It's pretty widely used at this time. With that, I think we can transition to Monty. Hey, Monty, do you have audio?
Good morning. Yes, this is Monty, and I'm a retired career law enforcement officer. I have a couple degrees in law enforcement and started with as an intern in Albany County Sheriff's Office in Wyoming, Laramie Police Department, Wyoming, Anchorage Police, and military police, and ended with Department of Treasury, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security. So a lot of interaction using a lot of IT systems for fugitive operation task forces.
Great.
Thank you, Monty. I would like to go over the agenda for today. Today we will be covering visual recognition, entity search, alerts and notifications, and network analysis.
Let's start with the visual recognition first.
Okay, starting with visual recognition. The process of visual recognition tends to follow 3 basic steps. First, your face is captured with a photo or video. It doesn't matter if you're alone or in a crowd, it can happen in real time. The software then measures the variety of facial features, and those are called landmark points. So landmark points on the face. These could include the distance between the eyes, the width of the nose, depth of the eye sockets, and the distance from the forehead to the chin. And with that, the facial recognition can collect up to 80 different measures. Okay. The information is then converted into a mathematical formula, which represents your unique facial signature. Okay. The facial signature is then compared to a database with known faces. And so when a picture is uploaded into the system, even though the face is slightly tilted or distorted, it matches with the original profile of the person. So that's where the 80 different measurements comes into play. Even though the person may be wearing some kind of accessory or it changes to the physical characteristics. So if someone were to grow out a beard or completely, shave their head, go bald, or dye their hair, the facial recognition stays the same. It will be easily to match the person, and it's actually available within the database in a matter of seconds. So I would like to introduce to you a flexible and simpler implementation called Keras AI. It's a component of the TensorFlow artificial intelligence. And it's a good choice for facial recognition. So thanks to the technology expansion, especially in AI, this technology is now available to an open source, which makes it more affordable and accessible to smaller law enforcement agencies with limited resources. That's usually the case nowadays, unfortunately, having very limited resources. So Keras AI is very good. The images of mugshots or booking photos are calculated into the mathematical numbers again. Furthermore, this method has been entrusted in the hands of patrol officers and criminal investigators, proven to be successful. So in a time now where almost every residence or building has surveillance cameras, I know I have surveillance cameras everywhere, it can be very effective to match the pictures taken from those cameras and put into the law enforcement photo database. Can we see how the facial recognition is used in real time, Krishna?
Sure. So one of the recent examples, if the officers recall, is the New York subway shooter. He was actually captured using the facial recognition. Even though the cameras didn't work, the pictures taken from the users' mobile phones were used, and I think that's how they captured it. Even here at Contra Costa and other agents in California, we extensively use it. Like almost every week, we have 2 or 3 potential suspects that were actually identified using facial recognition. It's a very effective tool here. In fact, some of the arrests were made, when a person even gave an incorrect name during a traffic stop. They just used the facial recognition. They captured it using the mobile phones, searched. I mean, this application can be used on the mobile phones too. So they can actually search on the person, no matter what the photo is, how the picture is, and they can actually search on it and find a match if it is available in your booking databases. We use your own booking database, your own images and photos to actually match or map to that. So that way, potentially, if any of the repeat offenders are there, you can easily able to identify them and identify the potential suspects using that. I can run one more time. It's a simple search. As you can see that the results come back in a minute or less than a few seconds. Users can actually use. They can use their desktops, or they use their mobile phones, capture image directly, and they can search directly from the mobile phones when they point and shoot a person using their mobile phones. Here, I'm just taking the image. And I looked at it. It's actually a different image of Robert Downey. We're just using fictional data at this time. And the search is made. It takes about 3 or 4 seconds. As Marissa mentioned, it matches the features with the photos that are there in the database and comes back with a potential match. You can also see the confidence score. You can set up a threshold, anywhere between, it can be 75% to 90% or 100%, and it comes back with a reasonable match on the identification as well as the matching of the features. Now, some of the law enforcement agencies have the facial recognition as a high-end feature available to only 1 or 2 users, but we make it actually available to pretty much every deputy, every patrolling officer who wants to access Beagle. They have access to this particular feature. Okay, back to you,
Hi,
Marissa.
Krishna. Someone actually asked a really good question. It says, what database do you search, and do you search social media?
We do search social media, but we do have social media integration. As for the database, I was mentioning that we do search for the repeat offenders in the booking database. But if you have additional databases, access to any of the other image databases, we can definitely search across them as well.
Thank you, Krishna. I would like to touch on the topic of tattoo recognition. So like commercial buildings and most people, we have surveillance cameras in and around their homes for safety. So surveillance cameras can range from, we all know Ring cameras, Arlo, Simply Safe. And with the pandemic, face masks have kind of put a little wrench in that. It's created some challenges to identify potential suspects. However, tattoos are often not covered, even though they're wearing a mask. So currently, any tattoos captured during the booking process, it is easier for agencies to identify reoffenders. Tattoo recognition can supplement facial recognition, but it's also efficient within itself. So this can save hours of manpower and result in more accurate matching because we can already see how it's matched with the image registration and compare that to the confidence percentages. Krishna, can you please go ahead and actually share how the tattoo recognition works, please?
Sure. So on the tattoos search, it's similar to facial, except that the technology that is used behind the scenes is different. Any of the visible images, any of the visible tattoos can be used, and these need to be captured during booking photos. Just not the face, but if your booking process or the intake process starts capturing those tattoos, and no matter what the angle is, these can be matched, and we can actually come back with a potential match of those tattoos. Again, this is modern technologies or the artificial intelligence that's used. Again, open source, part of Beagle, can be easily accessible, but it would be need to change your intake process to capture not just the faces, as well as you need to capture the visible tattoos as well. Some of the agencies here in California have started, once we introduced this feature, they have started capturing some of these tattoos as part of the booking process as well. Any questions?
Yeah, there is a question in the chat. It says, does the video quality impact success rates for photo recognition, whether it's facial or tattoo?
It does, but usually we have seen a pretty good and a strong success rate in the matches too. The video quality and all to a certain extent does impact it, but the technology that's been used, because it has over the years it has improved very well. Both the Keras AI and the OpenCV, I think both of these have a very high threshold to actually address poor or distorted videos or images that can actually be captured and even searched on.
Thank you. Krishna, can you go ahead and?
Yeah, so I'll continue with the license plate. So I think the third component of it, now we talked about the facial recognition and tattoo search, and both of them was to deal with persons. A lot of you know about the license plate reader, the ALPR, the cameras that are set up, which has got infrared reader and so on, and that can capture maybe thousands or hundreds of cards in a matter of seconds, the numbers and so on. What we're talking about the license plate reader is more, has nothing to do with the cameras, behind cameras, but using your own mobile cameras to actually do the license plate reading. Now, where is it useful? You hear so many stories of where the officers make a traffic stop, they approach the vehicle, and suddenly the driver is armed and start shooting at the officer. And we hear so many casualties on that. But using this, just using the mobile phone before approaching the vehicle itself, the officers can take a picture of the license plate and then run through the search on Beagle, and which actually in turn comes back with the results of if this person is potential offender or has been a previous offender, and if he's armed and dangerous. So at least with that information, the officers are equipped with, they can be more vigilant and while approaching this particular vehicle or the person. Extremely useful for officer safety. Again, it's without any additional tools or technologies. All just use carries just a mobile phone. I'll show you an example of how it works. It can be used even for, you can go the cases where we're just running. So even moving vehicles, if somebody can capture the image of the license plate, we should be able to use that and search across the system. So in this example, we pick up one of the cars that's captured. So it's a Volkswagen ALR 486. So all we do is just pick it up and search in the system. So it just brought up a person, but I think you can also search, look at it based on the vehicles. And you can see that the Volkswagen ALR 486, it belongs to, okay, it's all fictional data. In this case, it belongs to Christopher. So you can actually bring it up, get the information, and then reach out to the person. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay. So we'll move. Okay, now is the fun time. Melissa, go ahead.
Okay, we have our first quiz. So what features are analyzed in facial recognition? There are 5.
So there is an Amazon gift card for the first correct answer, and the time starts now for 30 seconds. We'll wait for 30 seconds, gather all the responses, and then we will announce the winner.
So to give a hint, I had mentioned that it processes the nose, eyes, mouth, and chin, but there's a word for that. So
3 more seconds. Okay, we will go to the answer.
yeah, there are 5 landmark points. So the distance between the eyes, eyebrows, nose, mouth, and jawline. Yeah, the landmark points. And Michael actually got it correct. Shout out, Michael. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michael. We'll move to the next topic. So what we're trying to do in this particular webinar, we do conduct webinars regularly, and we have gone through several features at a high level. So in this particular webinar, I think we're trying to get into the features and maybe go a little bit in depth. The second topic that we're talking about is actually the most of the time that is spent by some of the crime analysts or researching is searching for entities, whether it is a person or a vehicle or a specific address. You end up on your systems and try to search it. Yeah. Now, what happens in law enforcement analysis or the data analysis is that you end up because you have multiple disparate systems. You have to search in your record management system and then later move on to maybe your jail management system, or maybe look at your intake system, look at the pictures, maybe the warrants or parole. You end up searching multiple different databases or data sources, and guess what? In most cases, none of this information matches together. None of this information gels together. So it's a very common problem that I have been seeing time and again for the last 6-7 years. The biggest issue is I normally use the analogy of a person goes to a bank, they will make sure that they give the right SSN, right first name and last name and so on. But if the same person is stopped by a cop and try to ask for information, he will try to provide you with incorrect information, either flip the driver's license number, flip some of the numbers in SSN, provide you with the incorrect first name, last name, and so on. So essentially what we do, we build a data lake. We take all your disparate systems, integrate all this data together, match it together, And then we also do some level of validation on the data. We ensure when you actually search, you get the accurate data. We try to make sure that you have, we make sure that there's a right SSN, a right address is provided. Or at least we'll alert if there's not a right information, we would alert that, this information is incorrect. Maybe you want to verify that. And apart from that, wherever there is missing data, well, let's say a city's information is missing or a date of birth is missing, we end up, we can actually look at other data sources, maybe in some cases, some of the external data sources, whether it's a DMV or SSA or ESPS, and then fill that missing.
Krishna, did your sound give out?
I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
No?
Now, yeah.
So I was saying that, once you have all this data put together, for you to get more accurate information, the way you search or the search mechanisms are very important. And we use a combination of these things to actually make that search work well and get you the more accurate information back. For example, one of them is it's called fuzzy logic. Some of the analysts that actually work on these systems, they will be aware of it. By fuzzy logic, typically it's not like a yes or no. It's more of the various degrees of truth. For example, you search for Justin Bieber. Most of the systems come back with saying either they found a Justin Bieber or they did not. But in this searches, what it does is, I couldn't find the exact Justin Bieber, but you're looking for what this guy is a Justin Bieber or whatever. It looks closer. Why don't you take a look at it? So it's a very degrees of truth that it provides, the fuzzy logic, instead of just a true or false, but it's more of a degrees of truth and with certain confidence level. And that's needed for typical crime analysis when it happens. And the second one that we talked about is Elasticsearch, and this is similar to Google, right? Google actually uses Elasticsearch in the backend, where all the, whether it's search for structured or unstructured data, they're all indexed in a different way, like in documents, and so that when you search, Google doesn't take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to come back with the results. It comes back instantaneously. That's where the Elasticsearch comes into picture, and where you can actually use that and leverage. The other one is the fault tolerant search. By essentially what it means is that even though you type in an incorrect name or incorrect date of birth, the system can understand what you're trying to search for and get back with the closer result. Like I said, Justin Bieber, and you can, instead of BIEBR, you type BIBR, and then you can still, the system should still be able to figure out, you're trying to search for Justin Bieber and get back that information. The other one is a deep search. We allow, just like how Google does, you can search on phrases and so on. We allow deep searches to happen. If you have something, a phrase that's hidden inside a narrative too, you can actually provide that phrase and get the search back. As somebody asked earlier, we integrate with the external data sources. We can search through social media and use other external data sources like DMV, SSA, or ESPS to actually validate the data. Even for the vehicle information, we can even use, if you happen to have ALPR in your agency, we can even search against the ALPR databases.
Krishna.
Any question? Yeah.
Yes, there is a question. It says, is this similar to Finder?
Finder, I haven't seen it. I've heard about it. It's similar to Finder, but maybe we have additional features than just Finder. Like we talked about, Finder may not have the visual recognition aspect of it, or some of the searches too, but I think we can bring it. We have those features, and ours is more similar to Google than Finder. But yeah, I believe there could be some overlap. Okay. So we'll run through this a few searches and just show you an example. So if you look at the screen, it's more like just how it is like Google. We built in collaboration with the officers, so they wanted something like Google-like, so we called it Beagle and then built it out. So we just searched in Justin Bieber, it came back. Notice that it shows one record, but the way it works is, because we integrate, it builds like a tree view and has multiple different records put together just under one. So you actually get a complete 360-degree view of a person in just one click and one search. And then you have options to verify the data. So it shows, if a driver's license is verified. Just keep in mind, this is all fictional data. It shows if its SSN is verified or not, and it shows other information that's not available. If it actually verifies and finds that this information is incorrect, it shows a red exclamation mark. And also it brings back with information on where this data is acquired from different data sources. Here in this case, it is from Martinez database, or Pleasant Hill, Antioch, or Walnut Creek, and so on. So you can identify the data source. You can also identify verified data as well. And once you go into the profile, it brings up pretty much all the information, all the demographic information, all the recent or the older pictures, and so on. Bring back all the information about his criminal activity timeline on a map, as well as his residential addresses and so on. And depending on the data sources that you have, we also implement this in other countries where they actually have some bank information as well involved. Shows all the SMT information, again, detailed information of all the narratives. Everything is brought into just one big view so that the officers can actually scan through it and then identify the needed information.
Krishna, we have another question.
Yes, please.
It's asking, the question is, what ALPR database do you search?
We search across Vigilant. We use the Vigilant to search across. That's one of the databases that we integrate with.
Okay, Vigilant.
Yes. So we looked at the name search. Now let's look at a different example of using other features, other elements, other data elements. In this case, we'll start with maybe a phone number. And the system is smart enough to understand we're just using the same search field, and we're actually trying to search for a phone number. And now came back with certain results, and at the immediate glance of it, you don't see the number there. But when you actually hit on show more and scroll through some of the older records, there will be a match to the phone number. There you go. So it actually finds the phone number with the person. And most of these searches are, it looks like a straightforward one, but then it can use a combination of searching through millions and millions of rows and records. It's a combination of, can do a name plus phone number, name plus SSN. Any of these combinations can be used. It can also do a partial searches. Doesn't have to always have to be, in prime analysis, you won't get always the entire numbers, but just a few numbers too. Even then, it can actually match and get back the information. Just using the search mechanisms that are built behind the scenes and the combination of it, and you get the data really fast too. The information that's there, it's brought back very quickly. Now, apart from these phone numbers, we can also use a driver's license number or a social security number, a combination of these things, and those are typical ones that crime analysts use. And the responses and the results are instantaneous and come back to the total results really fast. And notice the confidence score too, that the fault tolerance and The fuzzy logic that I talked about, I think it's actually available where it shows with the matches that are there. And this is search based on social security number. And again, the system is smart enough, and you don't have to use the hyphens too. You can use any of the combinations. You can search phrases too, just like something from the narratives, just like how you search in Google, and it has the ability to figure out what you're searching for and bring the information back. Yeah, we're trying to use a combination of, not just in just one entity, but a combination of multiple entities. Assume there are, if you search for a John Smith, there will be multiple John Smiths, but you want a specific John Smith, or a Bruno Mars born on 1987, 921, so you can actually use that information and you can bring back, or maybe a name and a combination of again a date of birth too. But it could be a combination of a name and a license plate number, or a name and an address. I think combination of those things also can get you more accurate and exact results. We look at the person's information. Let's look at non-person related elements. Instead of using person, we're trying to let's say search based on the address. And we can actually bring back with the information on the address itself. Searching on the, let's say here on the address, we're trying to search for a Martinez, California address, and it searches through and brings back the information of people who reside or live in that particular address. There could be more than one person, and it shows the addresses along with the linked people. Especially useful when you don't have the person information, but just have an address or a partial address too. Any other questions?
No, Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, we're giving a combination of address and a vehicle number. So we're trying to find a person who lives at this particular address or ever lived at that address with a specific vehicle, and that comes back with the license plate number along with the name as well. And it provides you with a different view as well when you look at it. Comes back with all the VIN numbers and the make, model, the plate number, registration, and so on. So one last search that we'll see is on the vehicle search. So you can just search whatever minimal information that you have. Just say, let's say you just have Toyota 1984 or something like that. So just on that and see, you want to see all the Toyotas with 1983 models? Yeah, it brings back with the information. Of course, Paris Hilton doesn't drive a 1983 Toyota. It's all fiction data. Shows you with the license plate information and so on, the vehicle ID and so on. It's more on the vehicle searches too. So you can search on a person, search on vehicles, search on addresses, search based on warrant information or the records, search based on a narrative text. pretty much anything that deals with law enforcement information, you can actually use this and search across different systems. That we'll get back to the presentation again. So we have the next question, which is
Question 2.
yeah.
What is fuzzy logic?
The
Fuzzy
time starts
logic.
now. $15 more seconds to go. Okay, time is up. We have to give another couple more seconds to see if there's anybody else who would like to answer. Okay.
Fuzzy logic is an approach to computing based on degrees of truth rather than the usual true or false.
So it's, as I mentioned, it's more of a degrees of truth, like not a binary, like okay, this exactly matches it, no, or it does not match, but maybe this is what you're looking for, the degree of truth. Any winners?
Andre? But also, there is a question, so do not let me forget to ask you.
Sure. So congratulations to Andre, and then
so the question
we will be
is
sending the Amazon gift cards after this webinar is complete. Yeah, I think we move to the question.
Yes. Ask the question?
Yes.
So the question is, this system integrates with and searches across open source data as well as locally stored RMS databases to find matches, and is also fully customizable based on customer needs.
Yes and yes. We use your local data sources and so on. And we can search on any of the open data sources that are available. And the system is customizable, because it's built on AI and machine learning. It's trainable, so you can actually train it based on the way you use it. And we have a couple of different options too. We have, if you have your big data center and so on, we can actually deploy it within your data center, or this runs on Azure on a subscription-based, cloud-based model. So you can either, even if it's a smaller agency, you can actually leverage this and use it to actually search across your systems. Okay, with this, we have a small break where we actually have some of the expert insights. Monty has talked about his experience before, so having deeply studied this system, I think he wants to give his opinion and expert insights and actually using this system. So Monty, please go ahead.
Good morning. Yes, this is Monty. I've been using identification tools since the early 1990s. I started as a Anchorage police officer, and my first call, I chased down a suspect at night in snow and ice who was evading capture, and I'd been an on-duty patrol officer for 4 hours when I finally got to this guy, and I had my weapon drawn. I was able to arrest him and cuff him, and he didn't have any ID on him. And initially, he gave a social security number, a date of birth, and a name. And eventually, we coaxed out that he gave his brother's information, and he gave his brother's information because there were warrants on him. And So that was a pretty scary start to being a law enforcement officer, where I could have shot somebody because he was lying, because he was evading capture over minor warrants. And so it's an important thing to always be aware how critical it is to have accurate information and the best information possible. And so several of these techniques using facial recognition, tattoo recognition are incredibly important. Additionally, as I moved on and worked in a lot of fugitive task forces that were multi-agency task forces, we were using a lot of databases where we were going in and out of multiple databases. I was using up to 8 databases to search. And if you made a typo, or if you didn't scrape information properly, you could also wind up with significant challenges. And the greatest thing that I see in this Beagle system is that it allows a single sign-in where you can move amongst the databases and retain the information that you're using for the search. So tracking and maintaining all of this information is significantly important in that way. So that was, I guess, my comment on why I'm really excited about working with Beagle and what Beagle app has to offer.
Thank you, Monty.
Thank you so much. All right, just a quick time check. I think we have about 15 minutes. I think we have 2 more topics to cover. So I'll try to get this done as much as quickly as I can and leave some time for Q&A. The other one that we have is alerts and notifications. These are some of the, again, modern techniques that we use. Most of these investigations need collaboration because, people are transient. They move from one jurisdiction to other. And for you to actually work or get in touch with somebody, to catch somebody, I think you need to work with agencies that are maybe a different officer, or maybe your neighborhood agency and so on, neighboring agency and so on. So Beagle allows that collaboration to happen. You can subscribe for an entity. It also has a collaboration platform similar to just like Facebook, but more like just for law enforcement. It provides with the daily feeds. And it enables you to build leads over a period of time, eventually translating that to investigative leads. You can comment on a person, or instead of just the booking photos, maybe upload some of the recent information, either the post that he had on Twitter, or maybe a new photo that was captured on a surveillance camera and so on. So you can enrich the existing database that will actually help you eventually to solve crime or find a specific entity that you're looking for. Now, once you subscribe, when you register for the real-time events, the way it's built, you will be getting alerts. Very similar. The technology that is used is pretty much similar to the stock market. Suddenly when a stock falls down or you want to sell it, and you put an event or an alert on it, and that stock is sold. Similarly, an alert happens. A person goes to a certain place, or he checks into one of the booking. One of the gets booked into one of the agencies, and you want an alert. I think that's similarly that happens too. And it could be sent as an email or SMS, or it could be broadcasting information, broadcasted across all agencies, depending on the level of threat or alert that's defined on the person. Quickly show you the demo of that, how it works. So we want to put a subscription or alert on Bruno Mars. So we can go ahead and look at the profile, and there's a button on the right-hand side which says subscribe. So just go ahead and click on subscribe. So you are subscribed. So what happens when you subscribe is, as I said, there's a daily feed. When you actually go to the daily feed, it will actually bring up all the information that's going to happen. Let's say this guy got arrested at some place and so on. So you actually have the complete narrative information that's fed to you. The previous cases that recently happened, and it lets you even collaborate on it. It shows apart from just showing the officer name, you can actually add comments, post some comments and so on. that we can actually collaborate or provide additional information on this particular person. We can even include some of the new pictures and photos in addition to just keying in or just looking at the information. So rather than just using it as a search and retrieve tool, you can enrich the information that's there on Beagle so that it actually becomes your investigative tool or investigative leads for you. In addition, once you register for the alerts, any activity that happens on this particular person, it would be coming up on a live feed so that you can actually know what's happening and maybe reach out and find the, just like I talked about how things happen in the stock market, I think at that lightning speed, you can actually get those alerts back to you. Any questions on this one?
Can I add something?
Please go ahead.
So in addition to the Google-like search, it allows for Facebook-like access. And to kind of just reiterate what Krishna had mentioned, like if an officer wants to inform others that this person has since cut and dyed their hair to alter their appearance, they can post that in the database. And so if the next officer pulls them over, they will know what to look for, because a lot of repeat offenders will change their appearance. If you look at previous booking photos, it's very obvious that that's something that they tend to do. So it's good for them to have access to that and notify others.
That's right, myself. That's a valid point. Thank you so much. So one of the other features that we have, and probably heard about it, and a lot of other ones too have it, but we a little bit different, is the network analysis. It's actually a visual representation where of all the links between different entities, between different addresses, vehicles, different cases, and the linked people, and so on, in a visual representation, and so that you can actually identify the required lead in more intuitive way. So the network analysis provides investigators with a quick access to the vital information, and it identifies persons of interest much faster. In the absence of it, I know that officers would spend hours and hours and probably sometimes even days and weeks to get it. But with network analysis, it saves so much time that you can actually do this with all the links between people, places, things, and so on. It comes back within about a minute's time frame with all the links that are there. I'll show you the quick example of this one. So when you want to further mine this particular information, so let's go back and search for Robert Downey again, and then again, keep in mind it's all fictional data. I wanted to show you a real life example on how these linked people work, but I think we didn't get really permission from any of the agencies to use this. So I clicked on the investigate. What it does is it mines. It shows all the links across the person, the related people. Visually, it shows the vehicles and the addresses where he lived and properties he owns and so on, but it's quite confusing. So there's a lot of data. You can actually filter that out. And when you click on a particular node, it shows information on the right-hand side. And if you want to filter that out, just click on the event graph, and then it brings back the specific records. And when you click on a specific record or the specific case information, it brings it down to just to that specific case and what are the people involved and linked on. If the case has multiple people, then you can actually go to the linked people and click on identify the leads across it, identify who is he friends with, if they're involved in other cases, and so on. The entire information comes back in a linked fashion, and all these cases put together, which is otherwise humanly impossible to do that. I mean, you probably need a big board pinboard to actually do this. This information can be actually done in the click of a button, and then further drill down to a specific case or a specific person as you need. It's a lot more extensive in a deployed version. In a deployed version, the real version. This is more of a cloud version to show the demonstration. You would actually see the linked people, and if it's potentially a dangerous criminal and so on, I think that information is available. We are about 8:52, 8 more minutes. So what we'll do is we'll ask the third question and then take up third quiz question and then take up any of the additional ones.
Thank you, Krishna. What is network analysis?
The time starts now.
It's so interesting to see Robert
10 more
Downey
seconds.
Jr. as someone that we pull up because I love Iron Man.
Okay, time is up. Just give a couple
Oh,
more
yeah.
seconds.
We got a few answers.
Okay. Any other answers coming in?
So yes, we have Christina who mentions identifying the layers of who knows what and who is connected to what.
Okay. We can take that, it's closer. Congrats, Christina, for getting the answer.
Good job, Christina.
With this, I think we conclude the webinar. I think we're open for, we have a few minutes, another 5 minutes or so. So we are open for any Q&A or any feedback.
Yes. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Any feedback is greatly appreciated as well.